Alright, so what we're going to do is warm up a little with Sonatina in F. Okay, I might play, well, I practiced them hand separate before, so I'm just going to jump into it and see what happens. Look at it in layers. For that, we're going to have to change screens here. We're looking at Sonatina in F pitch. Okay, so this is the pitch level where we carefully look at what pitches the written notes tell us to play. All right, so with all these lines and spaces, we put notes on the lines and in between spaces to tell us how high and how low the pitch is. So our first pitch that it tells us to play is an F right here. Let's see, let's check the volume level. That's a little high, so we're going to turn it down. Sorry about that. Okay, so we have an F, and specifically this is the fifth F on the piano. If we start down here and we count the Fs, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, we're supposed to, well, there's 6 and there's 7. We're supposed to start on the fifth one. So that's what F5 means. It means it's in the fifth octave of F on this instrument. Okay, so we have 4 Fs here. F, 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 F. Then we go down to E5 right here, and then there's D5. The letters are kind of, I wish they were all on one side, like above the staff or below the staff. Is that buzzing? But some of them we have to move them out of the way so that they don't get all crammed and squished. Anyway, so we're saying F5. What's that noise? Is it all right? We have F5s. We have E5s. There's a D5, a C5. There's a B flat 5, an A5. There's a G4. That's the fourth octave of G. The fifth octave is up here. And then we have F4. And etc. It's got all the, so our pitch information is contained within the lines and spaces and the note heads. F, oops, that's not it. F, is that it? No, that is it. F5, 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 F, E, D, C, B flat, A, G, F, and so on. Then there's G, 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 F, E, D, C, B flat, A, G, F, E, F, G, A, C, A, C, A, F, G, F, G, F, A, B flat, A, B flat, A, F, F, D, D, C sharp, D, E, F, G, G, A, G, F, E, C sharp, D, C sharp, D, C sharp, D, E, F, A, G, A, G, A, G, F, E, D, E, F, C, B, C. See, these are B naturals now. C sharp, D, D sharp, E. Okay, and that's the end of this excerpt that we're looking at. It just goes back to the beginning. So that is the right hand, and I always separate the right hand and the left hand when I'm practicing piano at first, because I'm not at the level where I can just put the hands together and focus everything that needs to be focused on. in order to get my technique and playing correct and my understanding of the piece, I have to deal with the left hand by itself and then the right hand by itself and then put them together later. So in this section, we're looking at what the left hand does. We start with an F, and this is 2 octaves below the F5. So this is an F3. Call that F3. We'll go to the next note, and the pitch of this next note is A. I suppose it's A4. And the pitch of the next note is a C4, middle C, the famous middle C, everybody's favorite when you're playing piano. That's all we need to know when we're reading this particular measure. F A C F F. Sorry, F A C A F A C A F. And so on. We have a B flat here. B flat. What octave is that? 4, I think. B flat 4, and there's a C4, of course. We recognize A4 and C4. Here's a new one. A G3. Is it G3? Yep, it's below the A, so it's G3. The third G on the keyboard. And we might recognize middle C and F from before. So those are redundant. We don't need to write the letters in for that. Anyway, the lines and the spaces are supposed to tell us what these pitches are, but it's good to make note of these so that we can be a little bit more clear. So we've got F A C A F A C A F, rest, and B flat C A C G C F C E. Then we have E, B flat, C, B flat, E, B flat, C, B flat, E, F, C, G, C, A, C, E, C, F, and a rest. And then we have this figure that we play. I think we played it before. No, we didn't play that before. A, C, B flat, C, A, C, B flat, C, A, C, rest. And then a measure 29. Down here we've got F, C, F, C, G, C, F, C, G, C, F, C. Okay, and then we have some chords, some dyads here in the left hand when it's solo, but the right hand, when we put them together, they'll turn into triads and seventh chords, and So anyway, 2 notes at the same time. We've got a B on top and an F on the bottom, going to a C on the top and an E on the bottom, a B on the top, an F on the bottom there, and a C on the top, E on the bottom. Rest, F, G, G an octave down. Let's see what octave that G is. We know that's F3, and this is G3. Whoops, I just put a 3. G3. So this is 1 octave lower. That must be G2. Second G up on the piano. And then we finish off on a C3, I guess. F, G, G, C. Okay, so when we've learned that, then we've learned our pitch layer of music. Okay, next thing we have to do is look at the positions. This is the positions on the piano, which to my mind, there are basically 7, sort of excluding the sharps because they kind of overlap with the white keys or the natural pitches. So we can play things in A position on the right hand, where you put your thumb on A, B, C, D, E. You can put your thumb on B, and all the fingers line up to cover a certain number of keys. B, C, D, E, F, that's B position, and we have C position, C, D, E, F, G. We have D position, starting with a thumb on D. Then we have E position with a thumb on E. We have F position with a thumb on F. And we have G position with the thumb on G. If we keep going up to the next white key, then we will get A again. Okay, so the reason that I don't call sharps their own position is because, well, sharps and flats. The reason I don't call the black keys their own position is because most of the time we're using black keys with other white keys, and very rarely do we play in, say, the key of C sharp major, where we would be in C sharp position, where we're playing over. What am I trying to say? Just stop thinking for a sec. Very rarely would we play in C sharp position, where there's a majority of black keys, and even at that, we'd probably avoid using the thumbs on the black keys, especially when we were playing scales. So to start playing in C sharp position, for example, I would just, probably put my longer fingers, the pointer and the middle finger, on a C sharp and a D sharp, and then reserve the thumb for the white keys. If I needed to play a scale. Anyway, I digress. So on the left hand, there are 7 basic positions, just like on the right hand, except the positions are named for the pinky on the left hand, because the hands sort of line up like that if you want them to play the same key. Anyway, that's the way that positions were named. And you put your left hand pinky on the key that you want, and then all the other keys line up around that. All the other, the fingers stand on top of the adjacent white key. So you can have your pinky on A, B, C, D, E, and that's considered A position. You can have your pinky on B, C, D, E, F, that's considered B position. Your pinky on C is considered C position. Your pinky on D, D position. Your pinky on E is considered E position. Pinky on F is F position. And when you put your pinky on G, that's G position. And if you move it up again, then you're back to A position. Okay, so in my mind, there are about 7 positions. So here's the phase of learning this piece where we look at when the hands are in positions. Okay, so we'll start off with the 7 positions to use and what fingers are going to go where, but also we'll sort of change positions for crossovers or technique-y things or arpeggios and stuff like that, because positions change when you're playing arpeggios. Okay, so first thing we do is we put the ring finger over that F, that starting F, and then we immediately change out of it, but we go back to this position, C position, C, D, E, F, G. We immediately change out of it when we switch fingers. So 4, 3, 2, 4 is what they want you to do, and that's so that your fingers create smooth motion, and so that the notes sound clear and ring out smoothly if they can, rather than just using one finger and maybe moving up with your entire hand and tiring out your arm and tiring out the one finger. Anyway, so you change fingers there. 4, 3, 2, 4, and that is the fingering portion of this exercise, where you're not just in position, but you're also thinking about how to move your fingers around. 4, 3, 2, and then we go back to F position. C position. Never really left it. F, E, D, C. We can cover all of those in C position, and then I've marked F, P, S right here, meaning that we're going to cross the ring finger over the thumb to play in F position. 4, 3, 2, 1. We play those 4 fingers. Okay, then we cross the second finger over the thumb, and then back to the thumb in the next measure. Pinky and the ring finger. Now we have to start at D position up here. and then it's going to change completely to C position. Then to F position, crossover, and then it looks like we move down to E position here. So the middle finger goes over G in E position. Then we go up to B position, where the thumb's over B and the pinky goes over the F we need. Oh, whoops, we need to play it faster. I mean, we don't, but, you know, I like to keep the rhythm fairly accurate. Okay, so when we stretch the thumb down to an A, then we end up in A position technically. We can stay in A position there. Then we go up to D position with the pinky on A. Okay, so after this D, we move the middle finger down to D. We're in B position for a little bit, but it's not really worth noting because we go out of B position very quickly. We're in B position for 2 notes, and then we put the thumb on D and we're back to D position. So I didn't write a B there for B position. And then we do the finger change thing, 4, 3, and then we're up in E position. So a lot of your fingering will tell you what position you're in. Usually you just get letters. You don't get music. You don't get people telling you what position you're in, like A position, D position, E position. Usually you just get fingering in the music. And the fingering is meant to imply a position or a transition or a special fingering. So that's what that's for. So they can leave off showing you the position that you're in because you're meant to decide it for yourself. You're meant to understand what position you're in based on what finger is hovering over what key. So we've got E position here. There's a 4 ring finger playing A, G, F, E. Then we move to B position, C sharp, D. Then to D position, little transitional fingering there, and then some more transitional fingering, and we end up in E position. We do a crossover and we're in C position. Crossover and back to C position for a while, and then 2, 1. Oh, that's interesting. Is it a 3? Original music. Okay. And then thumb in B position, and then we're in a sort of position limbo when we're using all of the black keys and white keys together, called the chromatic scale. So when you use all the adjacent black keys and white keys, your hands sort of scrunch together and you're playing in a position where one finger will go on a white key, and then sometimes the finger 2 over will go on the next white key rather than the next finger, which is how we're used to playing. Okay, so that's the right hand in position. Let's take a quick break to check on the stream. And so right now we're on the this is the F position / fingering layer, and we're just talking about where to put our fingers and what position we're in. I practice the right hand and the left hand separately. It's easier for my brain that way. And so now we're going to practice the not practice, but we're talking about what the left hand does in this phase of practice. We're playing in F position. There we go. And then we've got dun, 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 and we end up in a sort of E position thing here. The thumb is stretched up to a C, but oh no, it's not. We have pointer finger on B flat, and then the thumb on C, and then pointer fingers on A. And we're kind of in E position there, except we have to remember that the thumb is stretched up to C. So that's a good thing to take note of. With thumb on C. Okay, and then we're back to F position, sort of. Yeah, sort of F position, but the pinky is stretched down to E. F position, pinky on E. Okay, so with the left hand, I think the left hand tends to stretch out of position a lot more than the right hand, unless the right hand's got a lot of arpeggios to play. But the left hand usually plays chords more, so it usually stretches out of position. Here's E position in this measure right here. And again, the thumb is stretched up, and by now the thumb getting stretched up or the pinky stretched down is becoming a normal thing, so we don't need to specially note that, oh, the thumb is on C and the pinky's on E. We're getting used to it. And then we're back to F position. Then we're in E position with the pinky hovering over E, most likely. And then we have, actually, wait a second. Yeah, that's right. Okay, and then we're in this sort of chord thingy. The middle of the fingers are getting stretched out here, so it's almost not, it's like the bottom two fingers are in E position and the top two fingers are in what would you call it? F position. It's like you're in two positions at once just to put these two fingers here. So here it's actually just more important to pay attention to fingering. And then we have a stretch for this harmony, and then we go back to that old 2-4 fingering, and then pinky thumb fingering. And then at the end of this section we're going to play a second finger, thumb, and a low pinky, and then we play to C in G position. So we were in C position for just 2 notes here. F, G, stretch the pinky down to G, and then we can play C with a pointer finger. And that is the position / fingering phase of study. Okay. So at a certain point, I like to look at the chords that are being implied in the melody and the scales that are being used, some arpeggio patterns like Alberti bass and that type of thing, and all of that gets described as harmony. And I like to study harmony before studying the rhythm of a piece, because I like to study the articulation right after the rhythm. This is just the rhythm of the melody. Excuse me. And articulation is, to my mind, it's mostly how long you hold a note. Is it legato? Is it staccato? Is it tenuto? That type of thing. So I like to keep rhythm and articulation together because I think of articulation as rhythm junior. And I like to study harmony as early as possible because harmony can make the pitches make sense. It makes them make sense in terms of not just a position, but also in terms of whether you're playing an arpeggio and whether it makes sense for this pitch to be played. Because if you're playing a C chord and you look at a C and you look at a G and you look at an E, you recognize the pattern of, oh, that's a C arpeggio. And I like to get that in place before putting everything in time. Anyway, so this is the harmony portion, where underneath of everything that's written, we have chords that it would make sense to play. And I'm not saying that everything that I write in here is correct, but it's a way of understanding stuff so that you can learn it easily. Harmony is where we start chunking information into like intervals and sequences and really all the building blocks that composers play with, rather than just individual notes. It's like, yeah, these are individual notes, but they are also an F major scale, for instance, like right here. And I kind of neglect the scales a little bit. because they get assumed into the music. But yeah, all right, so let's talk about the harmony. Let's talk about what chords are implied when the melody plays, if any, when the right hand plays and then when the left hand plays. We've got an F chord under F, I assume, and then an F major scale, a C7 to F, C7 to F to C7, rest. And then we stay on C7. And then let's see what this chord is. I mean this scale. All right, so that's still an F scale. It's from a different degree, though. It's from G down. So if you like to think of it as a Dorian mode of the F major scale, you're entirely welcome, and you'd be justified, in my opinion. So we can mark that there's a scale right there. Da, 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 da. I think there's going to be a 4 over B flat. I think that was the fingering. Okay, so now we can see 2 layers happening here at the same time. Well, 3 layers. We can see the pitches of the notes. We can see some fingering written in there, and we can see the chords and the scales that we're using at these points in the music. Let's go to this measure. Da, 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 da. And we'll see what chords this goes with. F, C, F, C, F. And then we have a C7 chord and F, C7 chord and F. And this all fits within the F arpeggio right here. Da, 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 da. That's an F arpeggio. C7, F, C7, F. And then what I would argue is a B diminished chord. Right there, and then it doesn't have to be B diminished, but it kind of fits. And then a C, B diminished again, whoops, and then a C chord, and then maybe it doesn't stay. Maybe it's a no chord right here, or a B diminished, or a certain thing, because it doesn't really sound like a C to me. Whoops. C. How about if that's a G chord? Control K is chords, I think. There's G. Yeah. How about, because it goes up to F, let's call it G7. There we go. All right, so we got a C chord. And G7. C. G, then a C chord. And let's mark this scale as the chromatic scale. Starting right here. All right, I did something wrong. There we go. Chromatim scale. And it's messing up all of the fingerings and stuff. So let's put chromatic scale down here. There we go. And the fingerings, some of them have returned to their notes. There we go. And that is the right hand part. Okay, next it's the left. The left is playing an F arpeggio. Bum, 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 bum. The pitches of an F chord, played one at a time, and then we're outlining the C7, then an F chord, then a C7, and an F as that bass note descends. In addition to that, we have a pedal tone up here. We have, if you break this up into 2 voices, we have a C that alternates with all of the lower notes. We have B flat, A, G, F, E, but that C alternates. C, 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 C. And so then we outline the C7 chord still. Bum, 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 bum. Then we outline an F chord, C chord, F chord, C chord, and an F, doing that alternating thing with the pedal point, that, as I call it, pedal tone. There we go. So we know what's happening harmonically in this music. There's scales, there's arpeggios, we have alternating notes with pedal tones and that type of thing. So then we're outlining the C chord and the F chord again there, and then let's see, F chord, C7, F, C7, F, and then these two, F and B, we can say they're B diminished going to C. It feels more like an augmented 6 chord though, except we're playing an F, so never mind. B diminished to C, or a G7 to C, either one would work. G7's probably more likely, but I put B diminished for some reason, just because there's no G in those measures. And then we have, so like I say, we end on a C chord. So like I say, with these B diminished chords, they don't have to be correct, and they don't have to be what the composer thought they were. They can just make sense to you as a player. All we need to do is be able to play this stuff, and a little harmonic understanding goes a long way. So even if you get your chords wrong, which we do all the time, it's still cool. They can help you to chunk information together. And a lot of times what a chord is in the eye or the ear of the beholder. Let's go to rhythm next, and we'll check on the stream. Let's check on it. And we'll talk about rhythm. Okay, so what I've done here is I've isolated the rhythm of the melody and just turned them into Fs, you know? And we can look at each kind of note. We have a quarter note, eighth note, 16th note, and then back to eighth notes. Let's play it a little bit. 1 and 2 and 1 E and a 2 E and a 1 and 2 and 1 2. Rest on the and that's the rhythm of the melody. So you just got to be able to read it and know what rhythm you're playing. 1 2 and 1 E and a 2 E and a 1 and 2 and 1 2 E and a 1, rest, 2 and 2, 1 and 2 E and a 1 and 2 and 1 and 2 E and a 1 and 2 E and a 1 and 2 E and a 1 E and a 2 E and a 1 E and a 2 E and a 1 and a 2 and 1 and a 2 E and a. Okay, that's the right hand part. That's all the rhythm of the right hand part. And you also want to know how to count. You also want to know what the meter is, not just the rhythm of the individual notes, but you want to know what beat you're on, and that is determined by the meter, like 2/4 right here, and where the bar lines hit. They tell you when to start counting at 1 all over again. Here's the rhythm of the left hand. 1 2, ready, go. 1 E and a 2 E and a 1, rest. 1 E and a 2 E and a 1, and rest. 1 E and a 2 E and a 1, rest. 1 E and a 2 E and a 1, rest. This is fairly regular in the left hand. Rest. 1 E and a 2 E and a 1 E and a rest. 1 half notes. 1 2 1 2 1 2, rest. 8 8 8, quarter note, rest. Okay, so those are the rhythms of the right hand part and the left hand part isolated out of the melody. It's interesting to do that step sometimes if most of the music is overwhelming you and you're having trouble with the rhythm. You can sort out what the rhythms of your melody are without worrying about the pitch. And then when we put it together with pitch and position, then we can count these rhythms. Here's the rhythm count. Down here, I'm going to see if I can play this in time with the program. 1 and 2 and 1 E and a 2 E. 1 and 2 and 1 2 1 2 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1. I couldn't do it. And 2 Iana. That was the left hand not played in rhythm, not kept up, but yeah, that's the rhythm portion added into the the pitches, the fingerings, and thinking about harmony as well. Notice there's no harmony written in here, so we've kind of taken that layer out, but it would be interesting to overload this with even more text and tell you what the chords are and the scales in these sections right here, to show you how much information we're actually dealing with in a piece of music. All right, so let's play along with the left hand and see if we can get it in time this time. Rest. A little bit early. And rest. 1, 2, and 1, rest. Okay, so getting that in time is the rhythm phase, and understanding how long each of these beats is the rhythm phase. So after rhythm we have articulation. So you can see that some of these I have, it actually says legato in the music right here, so but in addition to pitch and rhythm, we have these arcing lines, these slurs, which tell us, well, some of them, actually these slurs from different pitches tell us which ones we're going to play connectedly, which ones are together as part of a phrase. So that's what the arcing lines are. They are legato indicators. They're also phrase groupings, and they tell you to hold the last pitch. Sorry, not pitch, but hold the last note until it's time to play the next one, and hold the last pitch until it's time to play the next one. Hold the one that you're on until the very next moment. As opposed to lifting up and stopping the note before it's time to play the next note. They're stopping the note before the next, and here is holding it. That's what the slur does. Here, and then we have these dots, these little staccato dots that go over or below the note head. And the dots tell you that you don't have to hold the note right up until the next note that gets played. What you should do, though, is play it as quickly as possible. Play it without any sustain, really. Okay, so you might have noticed that there are some legato phrase groupings with 2 staccato dots under them. We've got a slur here with 2 staccato notes beneath it. Okay, and what that is a grouping to tell you that these 2 notes with the dots on them, they are together. They are part of one phrase. Rather than their own separate entity. So with staccato dots we can easily separate them out into parts that aren't connected in the melody, but these are supposed to be connected. That's the idea of playing these. So let's play through the right hand and hear which ones are staccato, which ones are legato, and whatever else. Okay, that's the right hand part. Yeah. So I was remembering halfway that I actually have the music right here. So yeah, if you heard some grace notes like this, like a little note before I played my staccato, that's because I've already practiced the ornament phase of study, and it's a bit weird now to me taking it out to show the articulation, but I'll try my best. Okay, so it says for this part it's legato in the left hand. Just legato. All right, so that means that we're trying to connect every note to the note that comes next. See those have the slur on them. Rest. There is one staccato note in the left hand. It's this low G. What is that? G2. On this G2, it is meant to be played quickly. And then you have a horizontal line under this C that tells you that the C is supposed to be played full value, tenuto, held, full value before releasing it for the half note. So we've got legato, staccato, full value note, and then rest. And that's how he wanted it played. All right, so that's the articulation phase of this section study. Let's move on to ornaments, I guess. Okay, so now we've got position information written in there. We've got pitch. The numbers are the fingerings, and the fingerings imply positions. We've got slurs written in there and staccato dots. But now we also have these little tiny notes. What's this tiny note? They're grace notes, acciaccatura. And I call this phase of study ornaments because these little ornaments, these little notes are meant to decorate the bigger notes, and they are played in fast rhythm, but I'm sure there are some ornaments that are played in slow rhythm. Hey, look at this. I don't have any ornaments in the left hand, so that part was left blank. Just a bunch of rests. There's no ornaments in the left hand. The ornaments are in the right hand. So let's hear this with pitch, rhythm, harmony. Well, sort of an understanding of harmony in the back of our minds without actually hearing the chords. But we'll hear a scale and articulation and ornaments added in. Rest. Whoops. I missed it. Oops. And I'm going by memory, but we can just read it. Let's play that. Let's go back to here. There we go. And that is ornaments. Ornaments is usually a short phase. There's just a few ornaments thrown in here. Let's see, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, acciaccature, and that's about it. You just have 4 little ornaments put in there. But if you have a lot more in your piece, then ornaments may be a long study phase. Very possibly. Okay, let's check on the stream. Let's go back to our MuseScore screen. There we go. Dynamics. Okay, so dynamics. I'm still practicing this part hand separate, but now we can see these little letters here that stand for forte, which is strong, and piano, which is soft. And then there's a diminuendo going into forte. Yes, that's what it says. Yes, it gets quieter, and then so then here this diminuendo tells us it's getting quieter, and then all of a sudden it's loud again, suddenly loud. And then we have piano, quiet, piano, mezzo forte, forte. We have diminuendo again, getting quieter. Mezzo forte means like sort of half loud. Mezzo forte is kind of like the default setting on a piano when you just play it just to hear the keys play. And then there's a piano, and then we have a crescendo, a growing into forte. Crescendo, like crescent. It's the same origin as the word crescent. And then we have piano, it's diminuendoing down to, and then suddenly forte, and then we have piano, piano, mezzo forte, forte. Oh, this is the left hand. Getting quieter, and then it's piano, and then getting louder right before starting over again. Yeah, so sometimes when I'm in the dynamics phase, I find that the dynamics can really tell the story of the piece. Like, it'll tell you when the climax is, usually because that will be the loudest part. Now in this excerpt, there's not a particular climax because we've got multiple fortes, so there's not one part that stands out as louder than anything else. In the second half, there might be, but I don't think so. So I'm looking at the B section right now. There doesn't seem to be anything louder than forte, which is good because, like, when you notice that forte is as loud as it gets, then you can rule out other dynamics. It's not going to get pianissimo. It's not going to get fortissimo. There won't be any sudden loudnesses, any sforzandi. So we don't have to worry about those. All we have to worry about are these few values in the piece. And what was I saying about the story of this? The dynamics can tell you the story of a piece because when it gets quiet, those are the parts where the composer might want the audience to really listen in. When it gets loud, that might be, those are the exciting parts. When it gets really loud, it might be the climax of the piece. So yeah, dynamics tell you what's going on. Sometimes composers will use dynamics for effects, like you'll play a little figure and then you'll hear it again quieter, maybe an octave higher. And when you hear that quieter, that's supposed to be an echo. So they use that sort of dramatically to create, call and response echo effects like that. But what else is interesting about the dynamic levels and the higher levels of understanding a piece is that when you get used to reading everything all at once, let's put everything up here together. When you get used to reading everything all at once, there are some things that you tune out. There are some things that you ignore and don't look at. So I find that sometimes with students, if you don't specifically go over a certain phase of music, like dynamics for example, they won't physically be able to see it. It's like they can't physically see it because they've been practicing ignoring this stuff, and observing the things that they need to know, like pitch and fingering and harmony to a certain degree, once they get used to that, and rhythm and articulation and ornaments, So when it comes to something high-end like dynamics, you might find that the student can't see them until you point them out. All right, so anyway, we'll go over how loud this gets and how quiet it gets. It starts off forte in the right hand, quiet. Even quieter, I messed that up, it should be piano. Gets quieter there, and then forte again. Piano. Still piano. Mezzo forte a little bit louder. Forte. Getting quieter. It's a C sharp. The pitch is the first thing to forget when you're focused on other things. We're piano now. We need a crescendo, presumably to get us back up to forte, because we'll repeat that section. All right, so those are the dynamics for the right hand. Let's go through the dynamics for the left hand. We start off with a forte to match the right hand. Rest. And then it's piano. Oh, it gets even quieter, but here, look at this diminuendo. We've only got diminuendo for one note, so it's piano. If you can get it quieter, that's great. If you can't, then it might not be possible in that amount of time. And then forte again. Piano. That wasn't really piano. It's hard. One thing you have to keep in mind is that it can be hard to play the left-hand side of the piano quietly, because when you put in the same amount of energy to this section of the keyboard as you would up here, then this low section can take the energy and make volume out of it, because it takes less energy to vibrate low frequencies, and it takes more energy to vibrate high frequencies. So it's easier to play high quietly. Than it is easier to play the low quietly. But you can do it, and that's not to say that you shouldn't try to do it. You should definitely attempt to play as best you can. All right, so I forgot where we were, so we're just going to start the left hand all over again. Forte. That's not it. That's not the right octave. Piano. The diminuendo on the one note. Forte. Piano. Still piano. Mezzo forte on that last note, I guess. That's tricky to do, going from piano and then one mezzo forte note, so that would probably take some practice. We could probably spend 10-15 minutes practicing just that. Piano. Mezzo forte. Whatever. And then we go to staying mezzo forte, and then it's forte here, and then it's forte, but it's starting to diminuendo here a little bit, so you can back off a little bit. Forte, diminuendo, and then piano, rest. And then we'll get ready for forte when it repeats. So that is the dynamics phase of studying this piece of music. The dynamics layer, if you will. Let's go on to coordination. On an instrument like a guitar or viola, you need to use some amount of coordination early on. just to get the pitches to sound. You know, you have to use your right hand at the same time as the left hand, and you have to use it with a certain finger. On the piano, you can separate coordination out. You can wait a little bit and save it for a later phase. So coordinating the right hand and the left on guitar, I usually do at a much earlier stage. The same thing with viola. You need to bow it or you need to pluck it just to make a sound. So coordination comes in a lot earlier. On the piano, you have the luxury of waiting till you can play the right hand very well by itself and the left hand very well by itself melodically before you decide to combine the two hands. But this is that phase. You'll see a lot of B, L's, and R's here. Maybe an S for solo. Nope. Okay, so this is putting both hands together. When you do that, we're adding in all these things: dynamics, articulation, rhythm, pitch, harmony, harmonic understanding, at least like having a harmonic overview, fingering position, ornaments, and then we put it all together so that we can play it as written. So we have some parts to work on, you can hear. Scroll down. And then we go back to the beginning. So in this excerpt, I'll show you what the BRRs mean. Okay, so when you have a B, that means both hands are playing. When you're coordinating the limbs of the piano, you have three limbs that you can use. There's the left hand, there's the right hand, and then there is your foot for the pedal. There's no pedaling in this, so it's a shame that we can't use it, but we'll use our right hand and our left hand. So there's only a few kinds of ways that you can combine your hands. You can play both hands at the same time, which is what the B means. You can play the left hand solo. You can play the right hand solo. Or you can sustain one hand while the other one plays, and you could sustain the other hand while the opposite hand plays. Okay, so that's 5 ways of coordinating to my mind. You can have both hands at the same time. You can have the left hand solo. You have the right hand solo. Or one hand can sustain. This is usually the case while the other one plays, or the reverse. Okay, and so when one hand sustains, that I don't notate necessarily. I usually notate when both hands start together, and then one other hand keeps on playing while the other one sustains. So that's why it says both left, left, left here, where it's really both sustain while the left plays, sustain left, both, actually that doesn't sustain, so it's left solo, both, and then the left hand here. Okay, so for my purposes, both right, 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 both left, left, left is more useful than writing out that some of the notes are sustained. We should understand that they're sustained based on how we practice them during rhythm and articulation. The sustain should be assumed. We should know when certain notes are sustained. So all that's left is coordinating the right hand and the left hand together before our final phase. Let's see how far we need to go before scrolling down. I want you to stay with me during the scroll. So 7, 8, 9, 10. So measure 10 will be our last measure here, and then we'll scroll down right after that. Okay. I played an A, not a B flat. Pitch is the first thing to go. I can. Whatever. What was it? It's an E and then an F. Gotta get that order right. Just played that. I'll play that again. Whoops. Got the fingering wrong on that. So that's the excerpt. I played through that a bit, but I forgot to say both right, and both left. So here we have the both hands playing left, then both hands left, both left, right, lift up, right. Then we have both left, both left, both left, and then the right solo. Then we have both left, both left, both right, lift, right, both left, right solo, then both left, both left, solo, left, and then both left. Scroll down so we can see what's happening. Both left. Then we have both left. No, sorry. Both left solo. Both left. This is very hard to coordinate talking and playing it at the same time. And reading it off of the computer. Right. Ooh, what was that? Right. Both right. Under a sustain, and then both right, sustaining. Both right. Both right. That's not it. Both right. Right solo. Both right under sustain. Both. Right under sustain, and then right solo. And you go back to the beginning. All right, so working those hands out together is the coordination phase of this. I would say that for this one, I'm still somewhere in the dynamics and the coordination phase, still working them out together. In my playing, I think that the dynamics need more focus, and I need to work on that. I can do a little bit of coordination, so I'm sort of overlapping them right now. You go back and forth between these phases of study. Tempo. Tempo is the next phase, but I don't have a separate document for that. I have, all it says for tempo is, it doesn't say 160, but it says allegro assai. So let's put that in with the form document. Let's put in some text there. Allegro assai. We'll put that in brackets. Maybe we'll return to the next line down. We'll put that in as our tempo indicator. There we go. Allegro assai, that's tempo. You know what would go a lot better with the look of this is those very special brackets that I almost never use. There we go. Allegro assai. That's our tempo marking. How fast should this be? Well, it's pretty fast. Allegro assai is really fast. And I'm definitely not at the place where I can play it at speed. Definitely not hands together at speed. 1, 2, 3, 2, 1. Dun, 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 dun. So technically, at this speed, which I looked up on the last stream, it would be something like this in the right hand. Dun, 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 dun. All right, 2, ready, go. Ah. Can't do it. See, I can do parts of it, and the left hand would be like, trying to keep up with the tempo. So in the tempo phase, you work on getting comfortable, finding where the slow spots are, and where the fast spots are. I talked about the speed of thought in the Discord recently, so you can check that out. Put exclamation point Discord in the chat and you can join and see what I mean by that. But basically, speed of thought is where you play certain parts of the music slow and certain parts fast because you're more practiced at certain parts than others. And working on rhythm is all about getting everything to the same tempo, getting everything evened out. But then when you're working on the tempo phase of your piece, you're getting it up to speed. You're practicing it at the right speed that it should be. Unfortunately, there aren't any accelerandos, acceleratings, or ritardandos, slowing down, or rubato, or rallentando, or any of those indicators to tell you to speed up and slow down, or anything that says a tempo. It just says allegro assai. So that's all we have for the tempo phase of study. I'm going to save this. But that's the phase where we work on getting it up to speed. So I'm stuck in dynamics and coordination limbo right now in my study of this piece, and I hope to get to tempo one day, but it's not going to be today. And then the last phase of study is, let's retitle this if we can. I don't know if I can change the title. Paste, edit element. There we go. Sonatina in F. We're going to put tempo in parentheses. And form. Form is something that I actually like to study fairly early on, at least to separate out the big sections. The first time I read it, I look for the places where the music repeats, and I label those. So here's where we can put in rehearsal markings like A and A1 and B and B1. If you have something that repeats, then you can practice it. You can focus in on that one section
for a while before going on to the other sections. You can get good at that one section, and if it repeats, then the skills that you will have learned in the early section will pay off in the later section as well. Or yeah, they'll pay off. They'll help out a little bit. So if we listen to the first bit of it, how many measures? 4 measures in what I've called the A section. Let's do it again. Okay, so that's our first idea, and I'm kind of nitpicking and labeling these in smaller sections than they would actually be, but I find these helpful. So that's our first idea. That is A, as I call it. And then we have something that is based on what we just had before. If you look at A1, it's not all the same pitches, but it is similar rhythm. The rhythm is all the same, and the coordination is all the same up till this note right here. So we have our main idea. Dun, 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 bum, 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 ba, da. We move that all up. And we've reused that material, although it's changed pitch and some of the chords are different. But it's based on A. Let me show you A. It's based on A, so I call it A1. So then we'll go to the new material here. Starts off differently. So that's new. We didn't really do anything like that before. I mean, the left hand is similar to the left hand in the beginning, but that doesn't mean that they're based on each other. So this I call B. And so that's the B section. And we take this idea and he moves it up higher to here in the B1 section. Where is it? So we've taken the B idea and we've moved it up. That's why I call this B1. I don't read it. That's the B1 section. Okay, and then we're going to move B up even more to and this, it kind of starts off with this figure or C starts off like this which it makes sense to me that we'd call that C, but we could also call it B2. But the texture changes a lot in the left hand. It goes to half note chords. So even though it might start out similarly to one of the B's, it goes into its own place that is kind of different. It goes into this idea where it's kind of new. We haven't really heard this before. Bum bum ba da da da. What am I looking for? You know, and then we have a new C area. What am I doing? And then we have this new sort of section that gets us back to where we were before. It's introducing more new material, so I call it D. So let's listen to C, the C section. And then here's C1. And here's D. Reusing some of the C material anyway, so I'm not too keen. You know, I might change that. So I might move D over here if we can. No, we can't just stretch it. Let's get rid of it. and call this D. What text is this that we're adding? Let's call it rehearsal number. Text, rehearsal mark. We'll call this D. There we go. So D is just going to last 2 measures, but I feel like this measure before was part of C1 here. Because D feels like a different thing once it gets to here. I don't know. These are just my impressions, but you could just divide up the sections into like measures of 2 or measures of 4 or whatever you want to do to give it some form, some understanding of what the overall thing is doing. So usually after I do a sight read for the first time, I try to at least figure out where A comes back, right? Because you have an A section, and then usually A gets repeated or played again later on in the piece. And so it's very helpful to find those spots that you've already played before, just so you can break the piece down into smaller groups. And you can isolate those groups and study them and get good at them, and then put it all back together. So I sometimes study form early on to get an idea of what I'm going to be doing in the piece. All right, so now I'm going to play it from the beginning. Actually, that was dumb. Let's keep it on this page for a little bit. I will show this music while I'm playing, and then we'll go on to the second page, and that'll be it. Coordination. Now let's scroll down. And then it repeats. Here's a, in addition to the rehearsal marks, here is a repeat sign. This repeat sign is part of the study of the form. So we're going to repeat the whole thing. We're going to go back to the beginning and play that again. Sorry, I forgot to scroll down. All right, let's go off into the second half now that we've repeated it. All right. That's better. What would you call that? Doesn't it start off the same way that the piece did in the beginning? Would you call it A? Differently, I might call it A2 or A3 or whatever A we haven't used before. repeat that section. So that's the B section. Got a lot more material in it. Would take forever to talk about it. Now we're going to repeat it. Sonata in F major by Beethoven, ANH 5 number 2. All right, let's play some guitar.